All right, so good afternoon, everyone. So today we're going to be starting the UTME 2024, and I will be revealing to you most of the topics that you would come across in this particular examination. All right, so let's consider the syllabus for UTME 2024. All right, so now looking at the syllabus, the first aspect, okay, would majorly be reading comprehension. So this will majorly be reading comprehension. All right, so which means in the UTME, you'll be given a maximum of 5 reading passages, okay? You're given a maximum of 5 reading passages, and what you're supposed to do is each reading passage, you're supposed to read, understand it, and attempt a maximum of 5 questions. And these questions are usually tested on the aspect of factual question, inferential questions, all right? So you have major objective questions that will be asked. And those passages can be descriptive, some can be expository, all right? Some can even be narrative, some can be argumentative. That's how the reading passages will be, okay, for reading comprehension. So comprehension aspect is very important in the UTME. Now, after that, we'll look at the aspect of synonyms, okay? Synonyms is a very compulsory aspect that will be tested in UTME. And over the years, if you look through the past questions, you will realize that synonyms are aspects that will most likely be considered in the UTME. And that is part of what I'll be touching throughout the course of this particular class, okay? So now let's see, number 3. We'll now look at the aspect of antonyms, okay? We'll look at the aspect of antonyms. And then when we talk about antonyms, is rightly the opposite of synonyms, okay? So what are antonyms? Now you're trying to look at words that indicate opposite in meaning, all right? These are words that indicate oppositeness in meaning. And when you look at synonyms, these are practical words that indicate synonymy, all right? That is words that are nearest in meaning. I hope you understand that now. So now, apart from synonyms and antonyms, we look at best complete each of the following. We look at best complete. Look at best complete each of the following. Best complete each of the following is equally a compulsory aspect that will be asked in the UTME. Now, what we mean by best complete each of the following is you'll be given a sentence, all right, and you have options. So you're supposed to pick the right option that will fit in the blank, okay? So you're meant to pick the right option that will completely, appropriately fit the gap. That's exactly what best complete each of the following represents. Now, if this is clear to you, then in some other cases, you'll see questions under interpretation. You see questions under interpretation. That is, question under interpretation will most likely be asked as well too, okay? What do I mean by interpretation? Some proverbial words, okay, or some idiomatic expressions will be constructed in form of a sentence, and you're meant to tell what specific interpretation does that proverbial or idiomatic expression means, okay? So that's what you're supposed to do under interpretation. Now, if this is cleared now, we'll now look at the aspects that would equally be asked. You look at spellings, yes. Yes, we'll look at the aspect of spellings. Now, for spellings, you realize that in some cases, some questions will practically test your knowledge about spellings. You have about 4 different words that has connected or similar spellings. And what you're supposed to do is to identify the specific word that has the correct spelling among the list of words that you're given. For example, option letter A will have a specific spelling, option letter B will have a specific spelling, and option letter C would have a specific spelling, then option letter D would have the same similar spelling. And what you're supposed to do is to identify or to pick the specific spelling that is correctly illustrated, the specific word that has the correct spelling. That's what you're meant to pick. So, and that is mostly tested here too in the aspect of spelling. Now, when you look at number 7, you realize that you have the English novel, That's the English novel would equally be tested, the English novel. And when we talk about the English novel, what we're looking at is the Sweet 16, okay? That's the major English novel that will usually be tested in the UTME. And you have at least about 15 to 20 questions in the English novel, all right? So the English novel we're talking about here is the Sweet 16, that's written by Khadijat Abubakar Jali, okay? So these are aspects in which you also see questions from, because the essence of that novel is also to express the work of literature, all right, to make you understand how events are illustrated, how events are portrayed in a text, okay? So the novel would also be tested in the UTME. Now let's look at the 8th part. If we look at the 8th part, we'll switch a little bit to the aspect of sound system in English language. So regarding sound system, it has come to mind that some certain aspects of questions are usually being asked, okay? Now let's look at the aspect of, you will see rhymes, okay? See rhymes. There are usually questions that you will come across, okay? And of course, when you talk about rhyme, you're talking about similarity in sounds, okay? Considering not the letter, but the specific sound that is projected in each of the words. You consider the sound that is projected in each of the words, not necessarily looking at the lettering of those words. I hope this is understood now. So rhymes will most likely be considered as one of the questions that will be asked in the UTME. Okay, so if you look at that, you also look at syllables and stress. You look at syllables and stress. Okay, look at syllables and stress. Okay, this is a concept that is mostly addressed or discussed in the UTME English. Okay, so the aspects of syllable and stress would equally be considered, and it's necessary for students to have a very good understanding about how to attempt questions relating to syllables and stress. Now, if this is understood, we'll look at the other aspects. Then if you look at here too, let me infuse a little bit of grammar where you have sentence structure too. We'll consider sentence structures. We'll look at sentence structures. That is sentence structure according to form. Look at according to form. And then we'll look at sentence structure according to function. Function or meaning. Okay? And then form or structure. So these are the variety of other sentence types that should be considered, all right, when talking about the UTME of use of English. Now, the next aspect is number 11. Now, number 11, you also look at the aspects of consonants, okay, consonant sound system, where we have about 24 of them. And majorly, this consonant sound system in English language, about maximum 3 questions will basically be asked on consonant sound. And then you need to understand the basic concept of what consonant sound represents. Now let's look at the 12th aspect, which is the vowel. Look at the vowel sounds. Now looking at the vowel sound here, we have about 20 of them. That's excluding triphthong. But if triphthong is inclusive, would have 25 vowel sounds. And for 25 vowel sounds as it is, now we'll be looking at all of them together. And remember, you need to just master and try as much as possible to memorize them. Okay? So 3 questions will be expected here too in the vowel sound. So you need to work as hard as possible to identify them. Okay? Then number 3, we'll look at sentence stress. Look at sentence stress. All right, so when we consider sentence stress is to be given a particular sentence in which a particular word will be emphasized or written in capital letters, okay? What you're supposed to do is, among the options, try as much as possible to pick a particular option that goes in contrast with the emphasized word. That is the word written in capital letter. That's what sentence stress represents. Are we good? Now, we'll look at the aspects. We're going to revise on word classes. We're going to look at word classes too. When I talk about word classes, what I mean is the parts of speech in English language. okay? Not in detail particularly, but just to look at the basic concepts that you need to understand under word classes, okay? Now look at subjunctives. Okay, so we're going to be considering subjunctives. That's an aspect of a verb that need to be emphasized, because majority of the questions on the subjunctive usually get students out of track. Okay, they don't tend to understand it vividly. Now look at those basic concepts. These are the things that we'll consider. So I need you to, okay, be with me throughout this class so that we'll consider each of these topics one after another. All right, I think that is clear now. So I'm going to pick one to attempt today. I'll be teaching extensively on one particular concept, but I will need you to be in class. Get your lecture notebook. Let's start the 2024 UTME. Now, the first aspect of the topic we'll be considering, okay, is this number 10. So we're going to be looking at sentence structure, all right? And then in sentence structures, we'll be looking at sentence type according to form or structure. All right, so once we're done with that, we'll also consider sentence type according to function or meaning. All right, I hope you're with me. Now let's look at that together. So in this case, we're going to be looking at the definition of a sentence, okay, as a whole. Let's get the definition of a sentence as a whole. So what is a sentence? All right, so the traditional definition of a sentence is that it has to begin with a capital letter and ends with a full stop. That's the traditional, that is the elementary definition of a sentence. That is, it is a group of words that will start with a capital letter and ends with a full stop. That's the elementary or traditional definition. Now let's look at the conventional definition of a sentence. Okay, so in this case, you look at, that is, a sentence is the largest grammatical unit, if you're to define that. However, to an extent, it will be complete, but then we need to impute more structure to make it robust, to make it comprehensive. So we can possibly say that a sentence is a group of words containing words, phrases, and clauses. In other words, what makes up a sentence has to do with a combination of a word, a combination of phrases, and a clause. Those are the components, the functionality of a sentence. I hope this is clear to you now. So in this case, what we would have is a sentence, okay? A sentence is a group of words, is a group of words, is a group of words containing phrases and clauses. I hope we're good. So what are the key terms here? The key terms are phrases and what? Clauses. Those are the key terms. That is, you may not be able to actualize what a sentence is, except you'll be able to identify phrases and clauses. So in other words, phrases and clauses are the components, the makeup of what a sentence is. So here is the definition. And then we can rightly say it is possible for us to say that the sentence is the largest grammatical unit. We can rightly say that too, is the largest grammatical unit. Okay, so the sentence is actually the largest grammatical unit. Remember that we have a morpheme, and then the combination of a morpheme will form a word. The combination of a word will form a phrase. The combination of a phrase will form a clause. And then the combination of two or more clauses will form a sentence. I hope this is clear now. So let's look at, we have what is called grammatical units. I'm illustrating that on the board. We have what is called grammatical units. So now, under grammatical units, we have what is called morpheme. You can see I'm starting from the down part, that's below. We have morpheme. So this is M-O-R-P-H-E-M-E. So the morpheme is the unit of a sound. That's the morpheme. It's the smallest or the simplest unit of a sound. For instance, when you talk about morpheme, let's look at letter S is a morpheme, okay? And it has a function, remember. For instance, let's consider the function. If I have B-O-Y-S, what is this? This is pronounced as boys, boys, boys. Now, let's look at the analysis together. So, boy is the root word. What do I mean by the root word? That's the main word. That's the independent word. That is a word that has a lexical entry. What do I mean by lexical entry? It can be found in a dictionary. That's the word boy. And remember, aside from boy, there's also another word towards the end, which is the one I circled. There's also another letter, rather. So this letter S is known as the morpheme. Okay? So you can see it's known as the morpheme. I have to represent it with letter M for morpheme. So what is the function of the letter S as a morpheme? It helps to show plurality. That is, the function of that letter S is trying to tell you that there are more than one boy. That's the plural form. Can you see how morpheme is the smallest or the simplest grammatical unit? Now take a look at this here too. If I have teaches, for instance, okay, you would agree with me that teach is the root word and es is what? That's the morpheme. What's the essence of the morpheme there? The morpheme there is trying to tell you that es indicates a tense known as the singular present form of the verb. That's the tense that it indicates. Okay? And words like teaches can go with the third person singular form, like she teaches, he teaches. Do you understand? So those are the combination. So es here will represent a morpheme. And in most times too, here, if you have B-O-Y apostrophe S, you see that B-O-Y is what? That's the root word. And then the apostrophe S is actually the morpheme. What is the essence of that? That's to tell you that what? That possessive cases would also form morphemes too. Okay? That is, you're saying that something belongs to just one boy. Something belongs to just a single boy. That's what you're saying here. So that's the concept of morpheme. So morpheme is the simplest, okay, or the smallest grammatical unit. Now, if I combine two or more morphemes, what will I form? I'll definitely form what is known as a word. Okay? You can see that a word is larger or more comprehensive than a morpheme. So the combination of two or more morphemes would form a word. What's a word? A word represents an independent unit. Yes, it has lexical entry. A word would definitely have lexical entries. Okay? Then, if I combine about two or more words, what will I form? I will definitely form a phrase. Okay? I will definitely form a phrase. And remember that a phrase is otherwise called a group. Okay? If you don't want to call it a phrase, you can as well call it a group. And then if I combine two or more phrases, all right, what am I trying to do? I'm trying to elongate the size of the wordings. So if I combine two or more phrases, obviously I would form what is known as a clause. Can you see that now? So I'll definitely form a clause. So you can see that a clause is larger or more comprehensive, more elongated than a phrase. Then if I combine two or more phrases, which can be, if I combine two or more clauses, which can be a main clause and a subordinate clause, what I will form is a sentence, all right? So if I combine two or more clauses, I would form a sentence. Can you see that now? So if you take a look at this, you see that grammatical unit has a build-up. Grammatical unit has a hierarchy. So you have from morpheme to words, and from words to phrases. which equally represents groups. Then from phrases to clauses, and from clauses to sentences. So that's why from one of the definitions I gave, I said that a sentence is the highest grammatical unit, and this is obvious from the illustration on the board. So sentence is the highest grammatical unit. Are we together? So it means that before you can get to the level of a sentence, you would have had a comprehensive knowledge of what morpheme is, word, phrases, clauses, and then you get to the aspect of sentences. But then I'm still going to touch the aspect of morpheme extensively, words, phrases, clauses, and sentences. But in today's class, we're going to be considering only on sentence. So having looked at the grammatical units, we're going to be considering the two types of sentences. So now let's see. Now let me explain to you. We have different components of a sentence. That is, what do I mean by components of a sentence? For you to form a sentence, there are some words that need to be present. There are some terminologies that need to be present for you to form a sentence. So let's look at those components. Okay, so in this case now, we're looking at component of a sentence. What are those components of a sentence? So let's consider the components. Now, if you look at the components of a sentence, we have what is called the subject, okay, which is majorly denoted by letter S. And what is the subject? It is the designator of the action. The subject designates the action. The subject is the propeller of the action. The subject is actually the person that initiates the action. And in a traditional definition, it is well recognized that the subject would always occur at the initial position of the sentence. But that's not true in all cases, because if you have a case of a passive sentence, obviously the subject will be at the very end. Now here, the subject is the first category to be considered as one of the components of a sentence. That is, for you to have a comprehensive sentence, a subject has to be present. Then another part is what is known as a verb. Okay, what is a verb? A verb is mostly denoted by letter V. And another name for a verb is called a predicator. Please don't forget, it's called a predicator. Okay, so a verb is actually the carrier of the action. That's what a verb represents, the carrier of the action. Okay, so a verb will tell you when an action is performed. A verb will tell you how the action is basically performed. So a verb here is the predicator, the action itself, the carrier of the action. Now, having known that, we'll look at the object. Now we're trying to consider the component of a sentence. So the object is equally important, okay? Now what's the object? The object is the receiver of the action of the verb. So the verb transfers the action to the object. So the object is more like the end being or the receiver of the action of the verb. And remember, when we talk about objects, we look at it from two lenses. We have direct objects. Remember, we have direct objects, okay? And also we have indirect objects. We have indirect objects. Are we good? So when we're considering objects, we look at it from the lenses or from the angle of direct object and indirect object. This will be emphasized as the class progresses. Now, let's look at complement.